In this video, I am going to discuss about the four most important areas that you should focus on while going for data science interviews. Well, the first area is your modeling skills, and that will include your ability on doing mathematical problems, your understanding of machine learning and statistics. So what are the areas that you should focus on in these broader areas? In mathematics, you should be familiar with the matrix algebra, the numerical analysis, the coordinate geometry, calculus, both differential calculus as well as integral calculus. So you may not directly get questions from these areas, but while explaining the different algorithms from statistics or from machine learning, you will need understanding of these areas in order to be able to explain the algorithm properly. Okay, and sometimes you might get questions like what is the inverse of a matrix. You could also get questions like how do calculate the distance between two different points. For that you need coordinate geometry, or maybe you will be asked questions related to differential and integral calculus, so should be familiar with. And the best source for this is to go to Khan Academy, and there you will have plenty of material on these subtopics. The second area will be optimizations. You should be familiar with the linear and non-linear optimizations and the different numerical methods used in order to perform linear and non-linear optimizations. The examples could be, you should be familiar with what is Newton-Raphson method of doing optimizations, what is quasi-Newton, and so on. So these are techniques used in order to find out results from the ML and the statistical learning algorithms. Okay, so important to understand the differences and how your software actually calculates. You actually don't do it by yourself, but you need to know what exactly the methods used by your statistical or computational software. Stochastic calculus is also one important area, but that's mostly an important area for people who are interested in banking and finance. So you should be familiar with the financial mathematics, the annuity, and finding out payoffs at the time of uncertain events and so on. Should be able to solve different partial differential equations and so on. So that's one important area for people interested in financial risk and quantitative finance and so on. Probability, without a questions, the most important area that you should be very thorough and should be very clear about. So we should be very clear with what's probability distribution is and what type of probability distributions are and how to fit probability distribution to a given set of data. I should be familiar with different types of discrete and continuous probability distributions. Basic statistics should be it's just trivial thing. It's in fact is assumed that everyone should know. If you're interested in a career in analytics or data science, you should be familiar with finding out and explaining summary statistics. You should be able to explain summary statistics very well. You should be able to do a graphical analysis of summary statistics, and then you should know what correlation is, how to find correlation, how to interpret correlation. You should be familiar with hypothesis testing. That's quite important in many areas. Statistical modeling is one area that is without questions the most important area. I should be familiar with the very basics of linear regression, logistic regression, Probit regression, time series analysis, panel data analysis, and so on. And statistical modeling is basically used for two reasons. One, for finding out the relationship between two variables, two factors, or multiple variables. But it's also being used for prediction purpose, right? So the areas where you will be asked question mostly from statistical modeling would be like how do we find or how do we do the inference between about a particular variable affecting another variable. That's one important area. because the prediction part is common between statistical modeling and machine learning, because machine learning algorithms are not being used for finding out the relationship between variables, so to say. Okay, so machine learning and statistical modeling are without question the most important areas one should be very familiar with. So one should be familiar with the basics of regressions, classification. So classification techniques could be logistic regression, decision tree, random forest, support vector machines. How do you combine, multiple models through bagging and boosting? So these are areas you should be familiar with. You should also be familiar with the unsupervised learning algorithms from machine learning, which are like clustering, and then you should be familiar with your dimension reduction techniques like the PCA, the principal component analysis, factor analysis, partial least square analysis, and so on. With the recent time popularity of deep learning or deep neural network algorithms, it's also good to have some idea about deep learning. Although for beginners, nobody would expect you to be very familiar with deep learning, so to say, which is more of an advanced areas. But it's good to know about it, so that it's quite impressive to have it on your resume, that you are familiar with, or you at least know what deep learning is and what the deep learning algorithms are. Programming. So we should be familiar with statistical softwares like SAS or MATLAB, SPSS, and also the Python library. Python is becoming very popular in the statistical and machine learning data analysis. Data handling skill using SQL, and more recently with the popularity of large data analysis, the NoSQL databases. So it's good to, in fact, the important thing. So good to know SQL without a question. It's very important to know data handling skills to SQL or maybe Excel sometimes. If you are not familiar with, let's say, large data analysis, you should have good familiar with using Excel functions to do data crunching. Scripting language, you should be good to know Python, Java, or C++. For in finance, Python and C++ are heavily used. In many areas, Java is also used. So good to know. Even Perl, Ruby on Rails, you name any language, modern language, good to know all these languages. Among the your knowledge of computational algorithms is also quite important, and very important from point of view of, if you are more on automation side, where we're automating tasks rather than doing business analysis, right? So as a data scientist, you will be working on two areas, right? One will be automation, the other one would be business analysis. Automation, or maybe something to do with automation. It did not be pure automation. It could be building a product which would automate a lot of manual job, right? For instance, a recommendation engine, right? That's one way of automating your task, right? You completely automate recommendation of product and services to your customers through ML algorithms. Or maybe you will try to explain different factors affecting your revenue or sales to your senior management. So that would be business analysis. Now if you're more into automation side of data science, you will be asked about code optimization, time space complexity, what the software development life cycle, and your familiarity with that, your data modeling skills, and your project management skills with the new areas of software development, such as agile way of doing it, and so on. So it's important to have a good knowledge of that. If you're from business side, business analysis area of data science, then probably these areas may not matter to you much. Okay, having knowledge of domain and product is extremely important, and you will get questions. If you're already experienced, then you will always get questions, and if you're a fresher, you probably may not get questions, much of question or too many questions from these areas. If you're in banking, you'll be asked questions about risk regulations, what are the management reports which are important to the bank. You'll be asked about products like credit card, mortgage, and so on. If you're from manufacturing, you'll be asked questions on inventory, order management, supply chain management, customer relationship management, warehouse management, and so on. You're from telecom domain, you will be asked about the regulations involved in telecommunication, customer acquisition, customer behavior, product types, customer churn, and so on. From e-commerce, it will be asked about again acquisition, churn, payment, lifetime value of each customer, and so on. So it's extremely important to be very good with your domain. Only then your skills on statistical modeling and machine learning will be of use. Otherwise, solving problems will be very difficult without having knowledge of your domain. um, Soft skills, this is important in any job interview, and no matter what job interview that you are attending. Ability to handle your stakeholders, being proactive, being very innovative, having problem solving skills, and communication skills, presentation skills, all these things are quite important. So although it is considered that data science is more of a technical job where the soft skills are not very important, unlike your your programming jobs or software development jobs, data science involves participation from business side, or people who actually administer businesses. So it's extremely important to not just have these hard skills, it's also important to have the soft skills. So you will get questions on these areas. Senior management will take interviews, especially in the last round, just to decide whether you are able to handle stakeholders, work in a team, solve problems by being in a team, and being proactive to or be passionate about the work that you're doing, or you're just in data science just for the fact that it is the most popular, or rather most popular tech jobs at the moment, or is it that you're interested in this? So all these areas will be important in evaluating your soft skills. So these are areas, these four most important areas that one should focus on while going for data science interviews. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe to get videos. You will get notification whenever we upload. Thank you.